it comes to concrete, we've got you covered. RowPaint.com offers custom concrete coating services for your garage, business, warehouse, and more. And we do it in one day. We are your complete concrete coatings solution.
This is Bronco Nation News Live. The best interviews, the most informed opinions, the latest breaking news, all from the top Boise State insiders. Now, here's four-time NSMA Idaho Sports Writer of the Year, BJ Rains, with another edition of Bronco Nation News Live.
Well, greetings, Boise State fans. Yes, we're back. It's Thursday. Mike Prater is Live 3, the ticket, as part of our partnership here on Thursdays. When Prater joins us, we're broadcasting live also on the social media channels of 95.3 The Ticket, so make sure you're following them on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, as well as the Bronco Nation News channels. If you're listening to the audio podcast version that we put up on iTunes, Amazon Music, Spotify, we appreciate that as well. However you're checking us out here, 9 a.m. every weekday, we talk Boise State sports. And Mike Prater, it's Thursday. You're here, and it's good to see you, man. How's it going?
Good, BJ. How you doing, bud?
Oh, we got big game 2 tonight for the Blues. So I'm, just kind of hoping we can, was hoping we could steal one the other night. Overtime didn't go our way, but we'll see what happens. Man, the Avalanche are pretty good, though. There's a reason that you don't even get 2-1 money on them to win the cup right now.
Yeah, I think Avalanche are going to win the whole dang thing, but I think St. Louis is going to give them a pretty good series if your boy Binnington, who was my fantasy goalie, by the way, all season when he sucked, is finally showing up to be postseason Binnington. You might have a little bit of a chance, but good luck. I kind of like the Blues.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, that was you can look at it both ways. You can say, man, it should have been 7-1 and it didn't look good. Or you can say it was the Avalanche played a great game and needed overtime to beat us. So we'll look at it. We'll see. But so I got that in the back of my mind tonight. Looking forward to some playoff hockey tonight. That was a crazy game. Edmonton and Calgary last night, 9-6, I think was the final. So
yeah, that was dumb.
I know most people don't care about hockey talk. That's fine. As I said, in our next expansion of Bronco Nation News, we're going to start a hockey podcast with you and me and a baseball podcast with Jay and I, and we'll expand this thing out to talk other sports. But there is some plenty of stuff. It's crazy, Mike. Sat here and everyone kept saying, "What are you going to cover in the summer? What are you going to cover in the summer? What's going to go on? What are you going to do?" And I kept saying, stuff will come up and there'll be stuff. And this countdown we're doing is helping, but we've yet to reach a point here in mid-May now where we haven't kind of woken up going, what the heck are we going to talk about? It's there's been news. There's been steady stuff happening here in the Boise State sports world. Next Thursday, by the way, we will get the TV schedule for football. So next Thursday, we're going to find out any games that move to Thursdays or Fridays or some of the early season kick times. I saw that all the networks will make some joint announcements next Thursday. So that's something to keep kind of in folks' back of their mind. But we're going to talk football. We got our number 17 today on our countdown as we continue our top 25 players on our list of the most important players on the Boise State football team in 2022. So we'll get to that. And I think it's a favor to Mike Prater on the list for today. But we're going to start with a little basketball news. Yesterday, about 3 o'clock or so, Marcus Shaver Jr. By the way, I do need to throw Johnny under the bus a little bit. Marcus Shaver Jr. announces he's returning on this very show. About 3 weeks ago, he predicted and declared that Marcus Shaver Jr. would be gone. And then on the show yesterday says, well, we all thought he was coming back. No, we'll find the audio, Johnny. We love you. But, yesterday he's like, on your show said, oh, well, we all assumed he was coming back. No, you didn't, Johnny. We changed your mind to say he was coming back after you predicted he was gone. So, but either way, Marcus Shaver Jr. is returning, which I do think the vast majority of us probably expected to happen. But I think it probably does cool the nerves of Bronco Nation a little bit. You lose some of the guys that they've lost, obviously, with Armouche in the last couple of weeks, but I think surprised some people. Acott certainly surprised some people that when he entered the transfer portal. You knew you were losing Kejab. I think this was the expected thing, Mike, but to have it be official, to know that Marcus Shaver Jr. is back, does calm things and make you feel a little better about this roster.
Absolutely. And by the way, now you understand what I have to put up with Johnny Ballgame 8 hours a day. Now, nonsense like that all the time. He never forgets these bad betting losses and these bad predictions, which are about 90% of his sports actions. So,
you know how it is as a sports columnist, sports talk radio. One thing you say something, the next day you have a totally new opinion and say something else. That's what you guys are, right?
well, I've been known to be a little bit of a flip-flopper, so I suppose I'm guilty of that as well. Marcus Shaver. Yes, it was a beautiful announcement, and I think you had a pretty good idea that it was going to happen yesterday, and all of a sudden there at about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it happened. Marcus Shaver coming back is a big, big part of this puzzle. Not only is he coming back as a big part of this puzzle, as you know, he's coming back to develop himself as a complete new point guard. I mean, he's always kind of dabbled at point guard. He's got the skills to be point guard. Acott was the big man with length last year at point guard. Marcus Shaver coming back to be Boise State's point guard, to get name, image, and likeness deal, to smooth his game, to get everything into place. This is a guy who's willing to be patient to go off and chase perfection as a basketball player. And I was really, really impressed. So I think it's a win-win for him. It's a win-win for Boise State basketball. I cannot wait to see how it develops. I just hope between now and October, he spends every single day in the gym shooting 1,000 shots. That's where he needs to get better.
I thought you were going to say he needs to spend his time working on his signature. I know you're a big fan of that.
I did see that signature yesterday. Is that really a signature, or is he a major in Chinese? That's a crazy signature.
We'll just say the ink was drying out on the pen, so there was just some. We'll just say it was an incomplete signature. We'll call it that. But you do see the announcement here on the screen. Bronco Nation, let's run it back one more time. I'll return for the 2022-23 season. Unfinished business. And hats out to Travis Hawks and David Gardner and those guys over at Crave Delivery, Pro Image Sports. They've inked Marcus Shaver to some NIL deals. He's already put on Instagram and Twitter some things about Pro Image and Crave Delivery, so I'm sure we'll see him. And that is kind of a thing we're going to have to get used to now, Mike, these announcements and these decisions. And when a player's deciding, okay, can I go make $150,000 playing in France, or what can I make on name, image, and likeness deals here in town? And so at least in the short term, he's inked a couple deals that are helping him, feel pretty good about coming back.
I got a question for you. We didn't rehearse this. We didn't talk about this, so I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but I've been thinking about this the last couple of weeks, especially since we're seeing these name, image, and likeness logos, these deals, which I think are cool. They're really great. Just let me throw out one question, and you throw me out the number that comes to mind first for you. Marcus Shaver's, between those two people yesterday, Crave and Pro Image, Marcus Shaver's financial package is worth?
I would say those two, just guessing, maybe $10,000.
I was going to say between 5 and 10. Somewhere between 5 and 10. So I think we're probably in the neighborhood. If it rolls up to 15, that's great too. Somewhere between 5 and 15, I think, is probably the number.
Yeah, that sounds probably about right. I mean, we're not talking huge $1 million deals here. And to this point, I still think he potentially could have made more money going overseas in terms of that. I don't think, Crave Delivery is giving him $50,000 here or something. No. I mean, I'm sure there's some free meals included in that, which is the trade deals. What you see, you're going to see a lot of these type of things where it's much easier for a company to just throw you $500 a month in free food, which goes a long way for a college athlete as well. I don't know the particulars of that deal, but whether it's an autograph signing at the Blue and Orange store, whether it's a couple social media posts for him, we don't know all the details yet. But I'm sure like at Pro Image, I'm sure store credit's a big part of it. Probably get some free New Era, Dodger hats or whatever team he wants to support. I'm sure that's who knows? All those athletes always wear those hats, and I want to ask them, like, can you name one player on that team? And usually they can't, but it's like it matches the shoes that day, right? That's like the stylish thing you got to do sometimes. And so I'm not that hip to do that. I am sporting the Timberstone hat today, by the way.
I like that hat.
You got the Ropaine hat on, but
yes,
we don't know the particulars of the deal. I'm sure there's some cash involved, probably some sort of trade as well. But that's kind of the new thing that we're going to start seeing. And again, it's not the only reason Marcus Shaver Jr. came back. I still think he probably could have made more money, if he wanted to, playing overseas somewhere. He certainly wasn't going to get drafted. Wasn't invited to any of the G League camps or the combines or any of that. So I think he comes back for another year. I think, as you said, the point guard part of it, which I know last year was all the talk. Last year, the talk going into the season was, well, the ball's going to be in Marcus Shaver's hands more. He's going to be able to do some things. And then it wasn't. It was in Emmanuel Acott's hands all season, and Shaver was kind of that off guard. So I think letting him be the quote-unquote point guard letting him, run things more. He averaged 13 plus points a game last year. I would expect that number to go up for a variety of reasons. But I know you guys had Leon Rice on, or you're going to have him on the show today. But you got a comment from him on Marcus Shaver. I know he mentioned his passing ability. It's a different role for Marcus, which I think did play into him coming back. I think he wanted to have the ball in his hands more, wanted it to quote unquote be his show, his team. Obviously Degenhardt's going to play a big role in this team. Chibuzo Agbo isn't transferring from Texas Tech unless he thinks he's going to be a major part of this team. But I think Marcus Shaver Jr. will be, obviously doing a lot more of facilitating, bringing the ball up the court, igniting the offense than just kind of playing that off guard and, letting threes fly.
I loved what Leon Rice said yesterday about Marcus Shaver's coming back for one reason and one reason only, to become a complete basketball player. And as you just said, he's never been asked to play fully at point guard. And those are some of the skills that he needs to go off and develop beyond the shooting. It's everything else that involves being a point guard. So I don't know, Acot's a big loss, and Shaver, if he's going to play basketball in the future, whether it's Europe or the G League, I think he's going to have to be a point guard. He's a professional point guard to me. What is he, about 6'2"? I don't see him being the shooting guard. He's not that good of a shooter. He can get hot, but we know his inconsistencies, and I don't see him being a three or anything else. So I think he's going to have to be a point guard, and I think he got that kind of advice in the last couple of months. You need to go back to Boise State and learn how to be a true point guard. Be silky smooth, take care of the ball, do all the things you have, and then the shooting can go off and take care of itself. His point production, even if it doesn't go up, I think he's got plenty of other things on his plate. It's the perfect time, too, because Boise State needs a point guard. I think it matched out really well. That's probably why we all thought he was coming back, except for Johnny. Everybody else thought he was coming back to fill this exact role, and this is exactly what's going to happen. I think Leon Rice, and I think I touched on this a couple of weeks ago, he's had himself one hell of an offseason, and yesterday was another chip in the piece of the puzzle.
Well, I do wanted to ask you about kind of just your thoughts on the team in general moving forward. But one more thing on Shaver. I mean, you're right in the fact that, and I know Leon mentioned it, there's not a lot of Chris Pauls left in the NBA. There's not, there's not a lot of, there's definitely not a lot of 6'2" shooting guards. I mean, Marcus Shaver could not market himself to not just NBA teams, but professional teams as a shooting guard. He's got to prove that, point guard is the one spot. I know there's a lot bigger, Emmanuel Acot, 6'8" type point guards, and he mentioned there's not many Chris Pauls left, but if you're 6'2", that's the only spot you can play in the NBA is point guard or in the G League. So he has to prove that he can do that. And like I said, I think just from just looking at who left and who came back, you're going to see his production go up automatically because of that. 13.3 points per game. He was second on the team behind Kejab, so he's now the leading returning scorer on this team going in to next season. Team high 33.1 minutes a game. So he played more than anybody last year. 33 minutes a game last year for the Broncos. Hit the team high 57 three-pointers. Started 34 of the 35 games. And, we mentioned all the big shots he hit. 4 shots that he hit, in terms of the final minutes, either tie the game or give Boise State the lead. Had a heck of a year, Mike, but he really struggled down the stretch. And we talked about this somewhere. He was sick. I mean, there were a couple games where they weren't even sure he was going to play. He traveled late to the Mountain West tournament, didn't even travel with the team. Yep. So you have to caveat all that and give him, a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. But his final 4 games, he shot just 17.9% from the field, was 7 of 39. And that includes just 1 of 14 from 3-point range in the Mountain West tournament and the loss to Memphis in the NCAA tournament. He was 1 for 10 against Memphis and had just 4 points in that game. So, I'm sure that might have played into it too, just the bad taste in his mouth of how the season ended for him, wanting to finish on a better note. I think we all think the big shot Shaver and what he did for, the first 31 games is more of the Marcus Shaver than we saw in the last 4. But certainly it's going to be a big year for him. If this team wants to repeat as Mountain West champions, wants to compete, Marcus Shaver Jr. is going to have the best year of his career.
I don't want to hear the phrase "big shot Shaver" anymore. And I'm not talking to you. I'm just saying that, he got that nickname because he was clutch in certain situations. The Utah State game, 0 for 10, then hits the game winner, 1 for 11. I need at the end of the next year's basketball season, Marcus Shaver to be known as smooth shot Shaver or consistent shot Shaver. Yeah, if he can throw in a couple of game winners along the way and beef up that reputation, that's always fun. That's always good, especially if it wins you basketball games. But he needs to be more consistent, and that's my big issue here. So I think he can take care of the ball. He can distribute the ball. I think he can be a really smart basketball player. I think he can be a really, really good point guard. And a good point guard doesn't have to be a great shooter. That's what the number 2, 3, 4, 5 guys are for. But if he can be a good shooter, and we've seen signs that he can be a good shooter, that just makes you that much more special, especially if you're going to go off and market yourself in professional basketball. So he's smart. So far, he's doing all the right things in terms of going out and testing the waters, getting some advice, and then coming back. He'll figure it out. I guarantee you he'll spend a lot of time in the gym. I don't know if it's 1,000 shots a day, but he's going to be shooting an awful lot. We'll see next fall if that shot works out, because he needs to be a heck of a lot more consistent.
And one of the things he's been doing training down there in Phoenix the last 2 months is he's been working out a lot with Sada and Ganga, who's down there in the Phoenix area. So the two of them have gotten to know each other very well and are doing a lot of the same workouts and things together. And Marcus Shaver's been kind of reporting back to some of the coaches, some of the thoughts on Sada as well. And so I think that's an added bonus that they've been able to get a head start on things together, potentially two important players of this team. One of the cool things about doing these live shows, Mike, we can take in the live comments and questions from folks. So if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, we can take your comments. Perry saying he is admitting that he thought Shaver would leave too. Rudy's saying run it back. He also asked, does this officially close the door on Acott with Shaver going to point guard? I would believe so, yes. I think that door was already closed. Some coaches will take you back when you enter the portal. It sounds like Boise State kind of just decided, hey, man, you want to leave? That's great, but good luck to you. They do have one spot left. There's one scholarship left right now, which, theoretically, I guess could be for Acott, but really they're looking for a big guy. They need somebody to replace Armouche at center. That's what Perry was asking. Do we need to shop for a center, or do we use Milner and Smith? Derek was saying that Milner logged some solid minutes. I do think Milner has a chance to make some big improvements. He's a guy that Leon Rice was saying his best basketball, he may not hit his ceiling for 5 or 6 years just because he's so raw. He did have some, things. And I do like Najee Smith, Mike, and what he provided, but in terms of starting center, he's a little undersized for that. So you look at this team, Mike, moving forward, you've got your three kind of your quote unquote big three now is Marcus Shaver Jr., Tyson Degenhart, and Chibuzo Ogbo. You feel pretty good about Shaver and Degenhart. You expect Degenhart to make that leap forward as a sophomore. You expect him to be better. So I think Shaver and Degenhart, two, potential all Mountain West first team type guys. You feel really good about that. Chibuzo Ogbo, yeah, you only played, average 1 point a game at Texas Tech. I guess there's some unknown there, but from all I've heard, they're expecting him to come in and be one of the best players on the team next year. So you feel pretty good about him if you look at what Acott and Kejab and those guys did when they transferred in from Power 5 schools. So you feel okay about that three. But from there's a lot of unknowns still with this team. If you had to ask me to pick a starting five right now, I don't know. We're expecting them to probably go get somebody else to compete for the starting spot at center. You do have Max Rice back. You do have Lucas Milner back. You do have Najee Smith back. You have Pavle Kuzmanovic. Your rotation guys last year, 6 through 9, are all back, and they were, key important pieces as bench pieces. If you can keep them as 6 through 9, you feel pretty good about those guys, again, being contributors off the bench. We mentioned Sada and Ganga, a lot of talent, but some unknowns there in terms of whether or not he's going to come in and start right away or compete for minutes or not be ready and need to redshirt. RJ Keene, they really like that redshirted last year. I think he's going to have some say and see the court in some capacity. Burke Smith, somebody asked about, 6'11" guy that is already entering his third year in the program here. He redshirted last year. Is he ready to take a step forward and play? I know Kobe Young, they like him. He could have gone to Washington and played wide receiver. They feel like they have a surprise kind of diamond in the rough there in terms of his athleticism for basketball. So overall, you look at the current state of this roster right now, Mike. What do you think in terms of you mentioned Leon Rice had a very good offseason. I mean, he could probably make it a amazing offseason if he can find a center. But what do you make of the roster right now? Is this team good enough as is to compete for a Mountain West title?
I'm not ready to. I'm probably not ready to go that far, especially since I really don't know what the rest of the Mountain West is. I do know that, and I think I may even mention this last week. Bob did an exercise with us on Idaho Sports Talk. He went out and found a whole bunch of big guys in the transfer portal, and it was encouraging. I don't want to sit here and pick out a couple of specific guys, but there were some people to choose from. I will throw out one guy, the Washington State guy, averaged 10 and 10. A double-double is the big man. I think 6'10", 6'11" guy out of Washington State. So there's big guys to be had in the transfer portal. So I think Leon can get somebody. I don't know if it's going to be a difference maker, but he can fill that spot, fill that body, fill that scholarship. Here's my one issue, and I didn't even think about this until you were kind of going over the roster. Here's my one issue with this basketball team. What was the big issue last year? The lack of depth. What's going to be the big issue this year? Might be a lack of depth. There's been a lot of roster change. Leon Rice got out there and scrambled his butt off to fix these holes and repair these holes in this roster. But he's just plugging in the holes, the 2, 3, 4, the starting guys he's had to go off and get. I don't think he's had a chance to build the depth. It'd be nice if we could get this program to the point where he's not just filling holes and replacing starters every year. He's actually building depth behind him so he can rely on 8, 9, 10 guys. The depth isn't a crisis mode, but it's certainly not a benefit of this program. It bit him in the butt a couple of times last year. And right now, because he's been scrambling to fill so many other spots, I don't think he's had a chance to build the depth. So that would be one main concern for me going into the season.
Well, and Leon Rice would probably counter to you that that's what Burke Smith and R.J. Keene are. They redshirted last year to provide depth, and they're ready to contribute this year. It's hard to say since we haven't seen him play in a game. I guess Burke Smith actually did play a little bit during the COVID season when it didn't count. Yeah, a couple minutes in there. He's a 6'11" guy, but he's more of the, I compare him more to a Zach Haney. He's more of he can shoot from the outside. He's like more of a lankier 6'11" guy. He's he's not the same player Milad Narmouche was. It's just going to post you up and dominate on the interior and the paint. So, but I'm bullish on RJ Keene, man. I think they really like this guy. Coaches and folks around the program have described him as a more athletic Justinian Jessup to me. I mean, they really expect him to be a guy that can come in and contribute. But again, the verdict is still out. We'll have to wait and see. Yeah. And again, Max Rice, Najee Smith, Lucas Milner, 3 very important guys that you need to win a Mountain West championship, but that's to play 10, 15 minutes off the bench. If all of a sudden one or two of those guys have to slide up into the starting lineup because they don't get anybody else, then they're right back where you're talking about your depth.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll see what Keene does. And I know he's coming potential. And I love it when coaches drop names all the time because you know what they like behind the scenes. And football does that all the time. So Prater needs to see RJ Keene. Never seen him. So as soon as I can see him, outside of Tyson Degenhardt, it's not like Leon Rice basketball players show up and explode onto the scene. It goes back to more of that slow, consistent growth in terms of player development. And Leon Rice, to his credit, usually gets the players to that point. Sometimes it can slow development. Tyson Degenhardt was an outlier with this basketball program. Maybe RJ Keene can come in and explode right off the bat like Tyson Degenhardt did, but I assume it's going to be more of a process.
Yep, and again, and I think how long the process is on Sada and Ganga has a lot to say as well about this team. If he's ready to come in and be a top 50 recruit that he once was and be a major contributor right away, that changes things in a big way. But if he's not ready, he needs to add weight, and it takes till January or February till he's a factor, that changes things as well. So I'm sure they have their whiteboard in there in their offices with the depth chart and all that and the projected starting 5, and wouldn't we love to see it? Because I think roster's good right now. But obviously, I think they need to use that last scholarship and find a center. And I do think that changes the outlook of this team if they can get one more impact guy with that last spot they have left. So we'll wait and see on that. We're going to switch to football, but first, I do want to tell you about Transportation Compliance Service. 1,000 people a day are jumping into that trucking industry. It's a great new career change, a fresh start, booming with the pandemic right now. So if you're interested in something new, let Transcom Service help you get all the permits and things filled out, get you out on the road as soon as possible and towing that first load. Another national company based in the Boise area, United Commercial Insurance. I know at least one of our folks this week, Rudy's been working with them and trying to work out a deal. So UnitedCommercialInsurance.com. They make business insurance easy, and they can write business insurance policies in 44 states around the country. That's pretty rare. Usually it's 1 or 2. So check them out. Ask for Brandon, UnitedCommercialInsurance.com, and you can give them a call there as well. And even if you have business insurance, you think it's good business insurance, give them a 5-minute phone call, see if they can give you a better rate. And again, they're big supporters of Bronco Nation News, so we appreciate their support. Boise Dentistry Co. as well. I can report, Prater, no cavities. The teeth are looking good. I went last week to Dr. Miner. Bought one of their new electric toothbrushes. I'm not big on flossing, Mike. I don't love flossing, so I went with the electric toothbrush that they said would kind of maybe help take over for some of the flossing. So we'll see how it's working good so far. But BoiseDentistryCo.com. Check them out. Locations across the Treasure Valley, and they will have JL Skinner out there on their behalf at the golf tournament in a couple weeks. He'll be out there passing out some swag at the hole for Boise Dentistry Co. They are also sponsoring the closest to the pin contest. So they've got a lot of great prizes. And I believe, Mike, the grand prize for closest to the pin is a really nice golf bag with the Boise Dentistry Co. logo on it. So
I like that.
I'm still waiting on an official ruling. I got to decide if the celebrities are eligible for some of these prizes. I'm still working on that because I know you and Tim Duryea are going to be fighting for that low score for the celebrities, I'm sure. But
I like it. I like it.
I might
My biggest question is, are we putting a golf club in J.L. Skinner's hands?
That might be fun to see. It's a par 3, so maybe we can just, for the fun of it, get some video of that for a hole. And
Yes.
I'm still looking for like a celebrity first shot of the tournament or something. I thought you and JP and Johnny might be good to get out there, but maybe we can get Skinner or somebody, and that'd be good. And Riley Smith will be there as well on behalf of Tin Roof Tacos. So appreciate them and Atkinson's Mirror and Glass. We got a lot of great sponsors that have stepped up for the tournament. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's 2 weeks from Friday. And I sold another foursome last night, Mike. So we're down to 3.
Nice.
Three foursomes left before we sell out the first tournament here. So if you're interested, you can give us a ring and email me, rains@bronconationnews.com. We'll get you signed up. It's 2 weeks from Friday. Really looking forward to it. So we got about 5 minutes left here, Mike, and I want to talk about Cade Beresford, the offensive tackle, comes over from Washington State, and we have picked him as number 17 as we continue our countdown on the 25 most important players to the Boise State football team in 2022. The full story on Cade and why we picked him will be up shortly after the show at bronconationnews.com. But I know you like the linemen. I know you like all the guys up front, Mike, and Cade Beresford coming over from Washington State, started 8 games last year. That was at guard. Looks like he's going to play tackle here. He played left tackle in the spring game with John Ojukwu out, but it sounds like that they'll bump him over to right tackle when Ojukwu's back in the fall. You bring back 4 starters. The other guys are back. You got Kekani Holalumia Gonzalez back, who will probably make an appearance here in the next week or so as well in this countdown. But the line really struggled last year, Mike, and to get a experienced, starter quality guy from a Pac-12 school, I think Cade Beresford has a chance to make a big impact here.
You teased this earlier in the show. I'm really excited about this guy. We had a chance to meet him the first time. Boise State propped him out for the media, and he was sitting in a chair, and we were talking, and I was kind of standing up. It was in the Boise State team room, and he looked big.
He had the flannel shirt on. He just looked like he fit.
Yeah, he had the flannel on, and he looked big. But when he stood up, he kept standing up and kept standing up and kept standing up and kept standing up and kept standing up. And all of a sudden, I was talking to Paul Bunyan. Are you kidding me? Guy was huge, and he's like 320 pounds. He looks like he weighs 220 pounds. And he did have the flannel shirt on. I think he got some work boots on. This dude is my kind of guy, an outdoors guy, a go-to-work grinder kind of guy, a no-nonsense guy. Seems like he's really smart. He takes care of his body. He's got all the boxes. Just haven't seen him play football. I mean, I know Washington State has, and it looks like he can play outside on the left or the right. That's good. He played guard at Washington State. If he has to, he can go back inside if they need it. So he brings a lot of versatility. I'm not 1,000% convinced he's going to be the right tackle. Maybe and I know they got Curran and Dooley inside with KHG at center, but it never really works out with the offensive line like we think. I think maybe at one point we'll see Beresford maybe even playing inside, but I hope not. I like to see this offensive line stick together, be consistent, do some work, give Hank Bachmeier some time. It's got to all come together this year, BJ. The pieces are there. We'll see what happens.
Here's a quick quote from Boise State Tim Plow, offensive coordinator Tim Plow, talking the day before the spring game about what he's seen from Cade.
Yeah, he's had a great camp. Probably one of the most important recruiting acquisitions there would be having Cade join the team, not just as a player, but as an older veteran guy. I've been really happy with him. He's definitely a guy I hope everyone gets a chance to see tomorrow. He's been having a great camp for us and definitely an improvement for us up front. And he's going to help us a lot.
The expectation is to lock him in at right tackle?
I don't think there's an expectation necessarily on position. I would say tackle is probably where he's most comfortable.
Okay, there he is. Tackle, he says he's most comfortable there, but the key part to me was one of the biggest offseason recruiting acquisitions was bringing in Cade. He's going to help us. So at least in the 15 spring practices, I think they expect him to start somewhere on the line.
That interview took place like the Friday before the spring game, or the Tuesday or the Wednesday or Thursday, right before the spring game. So that means spring. But yeah, they had a chance to see him for 12, 13, 14 practices, and they're still saying that. That's a great sign, BJ.
Yeah, it really is. And so Cade Beresford checks in at number 17 on our list. Tomorrow, number 16 will join me and Jay Tust live. I'll go ahead and just, I guess, say who it is. Davis Cutter. Davis Cutter, the wide receiver, will come in tomorrow at number 16, and he will join Jay and I live. So looking forward to that as well. We appreciate it, Mike. Always fun doing this show on Thursday with you. It goes 30 minutes goes pretty fast, man. So appreciate your time, and we'll be listening 3 to 6 today. You and Prater and JP, Idaho Sports Talk, Prater in the ball game on KTIK.com, the KTIK app, and all the various ways to listen to you guys.
And we'll talk to you tomorrow at 4 on Idaho Sports Talk. Bronco Nation News Report every Friday on Idaho Sports Talk, 4 o'clock with BJ. Looking forward to it, buddy.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, guys. Email me if you want to get signed up for that golf tournament, and listen 3 to 6 today to Prater, Johnny, and JP. I'll be back with Jay Tuss tomorrow at 9 a.m. Have a great day. We'll talk to you later. Bronco Nation News, Bronco